introduction. It is good to be with you. I appreciate press hosting and really appreciate the good work that you do. Hope everyone is doing well and staying safe and healthy. So you've introduced me by mentioning the critical minerals and their important role. Critically important, and when we think about our domestic supply chain for these very necessary materials for our nation and how they impact our nation, the efforts that I'm leading to confront this challenge, and believe me, it is a significant challenge. Critical minerals impact essentially everything from our national security and defense capabilities to our ability to electrify and develop alternative energy resources, even our long-term geopolitical and economic stability. There are 35 minerals that the USGS has classified as critical minerals. This was back in 2018, but really they're integral. We keep using the term critical, but they are integral to modern day life, to the conveniences that so many of us take for granted. I would not be talking to you on my iPad today without them, but unfortunately we are overwhelmingly reliant on foreign sources, largely China, for a vast majority of them. And when you think about that reliance, I would hope that most of us would say that this is unacceptable. We have vast resources of so many of these minerals in this nation. In my state of Alaska alone, we have deposits of 30 of the 35 critical minerals that are on that list. I think that we can and we should be doing more to develop these resources domestically and to develop a full supply chain of these materials from ore to end product, and do that here in this country. So I've been working on legislation that really attempts to take this head on. Last Congress, I worked to write and to move my Bipartisan Energy Act of 2020. We moved that through the Energy and Natural Resources Committee with the help of my good friend and now Chairman Joe Manchin. That legislation was signed into law December 27th. It was part of the broader Consolidated Appropriations Bill. But contained within that Energy Act, we have directives across the federal government for the agencies to implement strategies, policies, and missions that are critical to minerals. This includes offices from the Department of Energy to Department of Labor, as well as our public land management agencies. I think that this was a really important first step to get the ball rolling on a whole of government approach to tackling critical minerals challenges, but as we all know that there's a lot more that needs to be done. In this Congress, I have introduced several pieces of legislation to shore up American competitiveness in the critical mineral space, as well as to ensure that the federal government is not actively impeding their development, because I think we recognize that that also can be an issue. I have legislation that we call the Semi-Act. It's the Strategic Energy and Minerals Initiative to leverage the United States Foreign Development and Exim Bank Authority to ensure that American companies can compete with foreign state-owned enterprises like we see in China and in Russia. You mentioned the bipartisan infrastructure package. Again, a very important component to what we do next with critical minerals. I think it's important to recognize the strong vote that we had in the Senate a few weeks ago, a few months ago now, on that infrastructure bill. But that legislation included significant provisions to extend DOE loan guarantee to critical minerals projects. This would open an avenue of new financing, make available technical expertise and resources at the department. We also included permitting reforms for critical minerals to help expedite responsible mining on our public lands. So there's a lot that the Senate has done. Now it's over in the House. Speaker Pelosi is working through issues on her end, but it's my hope that she keeps her commitment to bring this infrastructure bill to the floor for a vote next week. I would certainly urge all of you, anyone who's listening, to call folks over in the House, call the Democrats, call the Republicans, ask for their support on this. I'm going to continue to push colleagues in the other chamber as well. I want to just pivot briefly to something that I do think that is worth highlighting, that can't be lost in the discussion of critical minerals as we're focusing on policy-making efforts. And that is a holistic view, a holistic vision of a truly complete supply chain here in the United States, from actually breaking ground to processing and refining minerals in a usable form. Because I think if we just focus on the mining side or the permitting aspects of critical mineral policy, it is not enough to save us from mineral insecurity. Those of us in Congress need to ensure that processors and refiners have the ability to build out their facilities in this country. We know that there's groups that are looking to do this already. Again, up in my state, there's a project there. It's called Graphite One. They're proposing a fully integrated supply chain to mine, process, and ship their battery grade graphite. It's kind of an exciting project. If they were able to come online tomorrow, the U.S. would go from being 100% import reliant on graphite, which we are now, to supplying nearly all of that demand domestically, virtually overnight. So it's a very, very exciting prospect there. But I think our country right now is really at a crossroads when it comes to critical minerals. We can move forward without action, continue to kind of look the other way here, but I think that is at the detriment of our national security, our economic security, and our technological progress. We can continue to rely on resources that are produced by foreign workers, oftentimes operating under horrific labor standards, sometimes abject slave labor, and produced by nations that flout environmental regulations and destroy communities. Or we can take the other path. We can acknowledge this challenge. We can face it head on. We can build out a domestic industry to produce and refine critical minerals, one which employs American workers with high wages, with strict labor standards, and some of the strictest environmental standards in the world. If we care about clean energy, which all of you do, that's what this conference is all about, we should care about accessing minerals in an environmentally responsible way. I have been somewhat disappointed that the Biden administration is taking many positions on resource development that seem to be at odds with the president's climate agenda. The reality is that the demand for these minerals is only going to go up over time. We're seeing studies that show demand for certain minerals increasing by 25 times in the coming decades. So I think the administration needs to approach this from a position of pragmatism. We simply cannot cede dominance in this space to China and other foreign and often adversarial nations and nations that lack strong environmental standards. So thanks for allowing me to be part of your conversation today. I know that this is an issue that many of you recognize is very important to America's energy future. And as I've said before, the one ask that I have of all of you is to continue to use your influence and contacts to show other members of Congress and this administration how important critical mineral supply chains are. So thanks for the opportunity to be with you, and hope that the rest of the conference is productive and insightful. Thanks so much.